new disguise, and I look through into real eyes. You are the only one I want to see. You are the only one I want to see. I see erosion becoming arrows. I see me coming close to you. Are the only one I want in me. You are the only one I want in me. I'm open now. Come inside and show me how to love. I knew not where I was, and that's because I was everywhere. It was strange. I wasn't lost, but I'd been tossed into the all that is. I rise with the one in us, and it's all love. The song on every tongue is, you are the only one I want to be. You are the only one I want to be. I'm open now. Come inside and show me how to love.
Thank you.
I think we're ready.
Okay. Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Arian, and I help to make these events happen. To my right is our fab founder who created FLOK, Karen Mehiel, created FLOK as a space for curating conversations and learning and everything that shapes how we live and grow together. Just a quick heads up, as you guys can see, tonight's event is being filmed. So if you have any trouble being on video, please let me know and we can take care of it. Also, there's a sheet on your chair with a QR code. If you haven't already, please donate to Ladies of Hope Ministries, our lovely Topeka K founded. Tonight, we are digging into second chances, what it takes to rebuild a life after incarceration. And we're lucky to be joined by two women who walk the walk. First up, Dr. Topeka K. It's really lovely to meet you. Dr. Sam founded Ladies of Hope Ministries, as I said, which helps women returning from prison find safe housing, reentry programs, and leadership opportunities. She knows this firsthand, having been incarcerated herself and later pardoned. She's worked with lawmakers, nonprofits, and even the White House to push for social change and justice reform. Also here tonight is Nicole Daedone. It's so nice to have you here.
Pleasure.
Nicole is a writer, a visionary, and the founder of Unconditional Freedom, which works to restore dignity to people impacted by incarceration, addiction, and poverty. She's also the creator of Orgasmic Meditation, a practice that's been studied for how it helps with healing trauma. Nicole is also had her own experience facing federal charges, which many see as a case of prosecutorial overreach, but she stayed deeply committed to her cause. So with all that, our lovely Karen is going to dig in.
Yes.
That's a big one.
More at this point. Everyone got the idea. Let's dig in. Okay, so Topeka, I've known you, had the pleasure to know you for many years.
Yes.
Yes, we've even had sleepovers.
Yes, we have.
And Nicole, I'm just meeting you in person for the first time. And it's such a pleasure. True. It really is. Having the two of you together, you exemplify what women should be doing today, using their power. So can you tell all of us how you two came together and how how you just sparked, how you're going to go out there and combat and use again your resources and show women how to empower themselves and how to tap into it. And more importantly, how you're working to keep the voices going for people that are incarcerated and keep their hope alive.
Yes. So I had the pleasure of meeting Nicole through her work first. I was introduced to the team, I'll say, shout out to the team, many of whom are here and online. And I was invited to go into Chowchilla prison with them to see the Unconditional Freedom Project and Art of Soul Making and some of the programs they were doing. And when I went in, I was floored. There was, the unit they were in was this unit that they said was the quote worst unit. But there were women who have been incarcerated in that unit for over 40 years. And the impact that the program had made in that particular unit had changed every woman in there. And I mean, I cried just to hear their testimonies on how impactful, and they didn't know I was coming or anything. And then I met Nicole shortly thereafter, and I was invited to speak at Free Food, and she was there, and it was just love at first sight, you really do say. Right?
It was actually love at first sniff. Like Topeka obviously is a force of nature, and so we have this program, and so the various people who had worked with her would say Topeka in that way that you would feel somebody before you got to know them. And I heard her name for a year before I got to know her, and then she was going to be speaking. We do free food. We do Michelin star food for people who are food insecure in Harlem. And so she was coming to be one of our speakers, and I was sitting, and then I felt her, and then I knew it's that place, and I think it's what happens when you're called at a similar level. You're equally yoked, is how they put it. And so there was a feeling of just immediate love, trust, understanding, and then from there we've just been flying.
Yeah, flying high.
Flying high.
We've been flying.
So, we're here to talk about second chances. We're here to talk about the work that both of you do to, again, empower, not to use it too much. I don't think we can. Women to tap into their own power. You both have had your own experiences with our criminal system or legal justice or legal system, let's say. And I'm wondering for Topeka, for you, I know your faith in God is very strong.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that you were fated to be in prison so that you would find the skills, you would have the experience to make the impact today that you're creating for so many? So that's a question for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I believe that nothing is new. Everything is written before we even born. So with that, irrespective of where I thought I would lead or where I would go in life, God's plan is God's perfect plan. And I always say that prison did not change me, but the women that I met did. That the sisters that I met through my journey, I would have never met, never saw, never paid attention to because of just where I sat, or at least where I saw myself in the world, in, I guess, relation to where I saw other people in the world. And, that comes with arrogance and, privilege and other things. And so when I was put in prison and I was able to see sisters as myself, I realized that I was there because God had a greater plan for me. And, I always tell people when they're going through these experiences that you make no apologies for them. Because if you continue to apologize for something that happened, then there really is no way that you can blossom and thrive from what happened, because you're staying stuck in that place. And so every decision that I've made in my life, whether it was healthy or unhealthy, it was the right decision because it is why I am where I am right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I so believe that. Nicole, you talk and write a great deal about women's power. Here we are back again. Can you define it here for our audience? What can we all take away from your understanding and experience as it relates to women's power? And maybe you're going to talk a little bit about women that draw outside the circle. Is that the right way to say it, the way you said it?
That's good. It works for me. So, women's power is so cunning and baffling in so many ways. It's like trying to see your own eyeball in a certain way. We don't have anything to point to, but we do have a felt sense. There is an experience that we can have, especially if you come into a contact with another woman who can sense herself. So my definition of power for women is it's very similar to gravity. And it's an experience where it's invisible, but it moves everything around it. So it's very different from what we know as power, which is force. But force always has counter force. And so you're kind of going back and forth in this warring experience. And then a woman who's seated firmly in her power will have the experience of entering silently, invisibly, and just moving everything in a way that uplifts. It has this kind of sustained quality of upliftment. And so that's what I think and it's funny. I mean, you said something about this is what women should be doing. Yes, this is what women should be doing. And that was one of the things that was so powerful for me with Topeka is, as women, we're taught to not trust each other. There's so many, or to compete, or that there's any form of competition. And so to begin to dissolve that, and then to really sit in our power. And there's no way, I don't think there's any way we can be in our power separately. That's one of the things that's very different in our conception of power, which is a more masculine conception in the world. You're very individualistic and you get yours and you compete and you drive towards success. And success is, for one, is success for all. And I think in a woman's conception of power. So I've practiced Buddhism for 30 years. And the Dalai Lama has said that Western women, and I'm not sure that it'll just be Western women, but will be what changes the world. Yeah, and so that's been my mantra. But then my question was, but how? Because you look at us and we're so organized around our ideas of disadvantage. Rather than our ideas, and rather than asset framing, rather than our potential, rather than what we're capable of. When we get together, we sort of get together and kind of, it's very difficult, rather than, and this is where I fell in love with her, was what do you want to do? What do you want to create? And it just starts happening. And to begin to live that way, where we feed each other our genius and the calling on our hearts, and we contribute in that way, that's what I see as power.
So, and believing in yourself.
With it, well, it's funny, I think for me, it's almost like, the feeling of flow, or if you're a writer, or if you're a pianist or an artist, there's this experience where you tap into something and there is no sense of self even. It's that absence because you've given yourself to something. That to me is that experience. And then from that, the sense of righteousness is conferred.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that in any of your books, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Probably the best for that would be something like erotic justice. That's where that's where it gets down and gritty.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm reading that tonight.
Don't you love when a plan comes together? I love it when a plan comes together.
Yes. So again, we were talking about second chances, right? Second chances meaning for women and men, let's not leave the men out. For women and men that have been incarcerated. How do we provide them the second chances that stops recidivism,
Mhm.
right? That, you know, that gives them the safety net, that gives them the welcoming back into society.
Mhm.
And I wonder how many people upon exiting prison continue to be displaced, lost, without that second chance, you know, because the second chance just isn't opening the door and you can go,
Yeah.
you know, don't come back, right?
Yeah.
It's what's going to be out there for me.
Mhm.
So can you expound
Yeah.
on that a little
Yeah.
bit?
Well, one, thank you, Karen, for having this event today. It's the last day of Second Chance Month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so April is the month of second chances. And you know, it should be every single day, every single month. You know, I often say that God gave me many more than just a second chance. Okay. I got a plenty. Okay. And but those chances came because of my family, my friends, my network, my community, people who believed in me and understood what I deserved and what I was worthy of, even before I knew what I was worthy of myself. And when we think about giving people those opportunities, we have to open the door, you know, whether it is we think about our youth and children, whether it's children, whether it's people coming back from the Navy and the Army, right? The military, veterans, it's, you know, unsheltered folks, it's everyone. You know, when we have an opportunity to give, I think we are all here to serve. And that's why I think God places us here. We're here for a short period of time. We're here to serve people. And then from there, we go on to whatever that next life looks like. And people, 75% of all people who go to prison are going to go back within the first 3 years without opportunity. For women, 75% of all women will remain unemployed for the first 3 years post-incarceration. And if you cannot get a job, here's a prime example of a call that I got 2 days ago from a sister who knew of the work that we did. As a matter of fact, she used to work for Ladies of Hope some years ago. And she was like, oh my God, there's a sister who's about to go be sent back upstate. She's right now in the work release program. And she's like, is there anything for you to do to give her a job? Well, you know, a nonprofit, you have money that's allocated, you just can't give a person a job, right? So I said, well, let me see what I can do. Thank God I knew the people at at Edgecombe Correctional Facility who has been working with me, the deputy and the commissioner. And so I just started calling people like, hey, the sister needs a job, or they're going to send her back upstate tomorrow. Now, she has an extensive resume. She had a financial crime. So they have all of these barriers. She's been hired 4 times. And each time she's been told she couldn't have the job because of the conviction, right? Not that, and I'm saying, well, didn't she just spend this time in prison? And so isn't she supposed to be forgiven and paid her dues? Why is she now not allowed to have a job because of it? But these companies are hiring her. But you're saying that she can't have it. Fine. She said, I will do anything. One of my friends, shout out to Rochelle, Salon 804. She said, I'm going to hire her and she'll be my aide. Can she braid down some hair?
Amazing.
Matter of fact, she can. So she'll start on Monday. And then another one, yes. Yes. Then another brother, Jay Jordan, Jessica Jackson at Reform Alliance, they connected me to my good sister, Tamika Mallory, Unconditional Freedom. They're going to hire her for the other 20 hours. So that's 35 hours that she's going to get. But that's one person. And I had to navigate all that on a plane today, right?
Wow.
Coming back. So think about one person, and out of women, it's about 29,000 women and girls who are released from prison and jail in New York only each year. Think about the amount of jobs. First of all, think about how people are knocking at every single door, even on this block. And because of where they've been, or you may see a gap in a resume you don't want to hire. So how do you help? You hire folks, right? If a person needs a place to live and they can afford a place to live, you give them an opportunity, right? Everybody doesn't have great credit, unfortunately, right? People don't even know they need to. You know, some people have the money in order to be able to live somewhere that they want to live. Give them that opportunity. You know, want for your sister or brother what you want for yourself, for your children, for your family. And so I think when we think about just giving, and I hear people say often that sometimes this second chance is really a person's first chance. right? Depending on where they've been in the life that they've lived,
Yep.
they've never even had an opportunity. So it is our responsibility, not just those of us that lived in prisons, but it's our responsibility as American citizens to help our brother or sister. And if we cannot count on the government and governmental programs to do it, then we have to do it ourselves.
Yes, well, thank you.
You told me the most staggering statistic. 1 in 3 people know someone who's been in the system.
Yes, 1 in 3. So
So
that's the
that's-
data,
Yeah.
you know, and so it used to be their problem, right? You know,
Right.
those people over there. I mean, I was guilty to the same, right?
Yeah.
You know, those people go to prison. I don't, it's not my issue until it becomes your issue, right? And now because this country incarcerates more people per capita than any other country in the world, it's everybody's issue. So if you think, you know, you're saying 1 in 3, there's 4 of us up here and 2 of us that we know of, right, are impacted by the system. Karen, what'd you do when you were younger?
Another lifetime.
But you know, so when you think about that, right, it looks different. Right? We come from different places. You know, we have different levels of education. You know, we were raised differently, but it still impacts each and every one of us. And, you know, I laughed and just said that to Karen, but Karen is my friend, so she's impacted just because of that, right? And so when you are aware of this, it becomes all of our issue. And if we think that way, when we think about seeing a person on the street who doesn't have somewhere to live, you don't judge because you don't know what they've been through and why they're laying outside, right? You don't know what type of mental health issue that they have that has put them there. You don't know what type of substance issues. You don't know what kind of sexual trauma or violence that they've been through in their life that just has them having poor luck. And, you know, it's just something that I know why we're all here today are so passionate about because, you know, we cannot just think about saving ourselves. We have to save our sisters too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there for the grayscale eye.
Yes, indeed.
So Nicole, you have this formula, prison monastery. So that I believe is, you know, before the second chance or the first, it's laying a foundation.
That's right.
For people that are incarcerated. Can you tell us more about that vision?
So I mentioned that I've practiced Buddhism for a long time. And I was on retreat one time and I looked on the wall and it said, unconditional freedom is freedom in all conditions. And I was changed the minute I saw that because I saw how many limitations I had just walking into this retreat. And I determined I wanted to know exactly what that meant. Well, I determined a little too well, but I wanted to know what it would be like, irrespective of any condition. If somebody passed, if I lost something, if my partner broke up with me, if I lost my money, I wanted to know what it would be like to feel free there. That was my question. And that's really been my query over these years. So my father passed, he was in prison. And so this has always been something that's very close to my heart. How do you change that experience? What can you do? And I was also, I'm somewhat insubordinate. And so you know, my business model, it's not a business, it's a nonprofit, but my vision for the Prisons to Monasteries project is that you know, people will be lining up around the corner to get into these prisons because they will be so potent, because we're going to take the experience that you would have in a monastery. And so we build it from the ground up. You know, a prison doesn't have to be any different from a monastery unless you want to determine that no matter what, it's only going to be based on punishment. But you have the exact same bone structure happening. You have, you know, your food is decided for you. You spend a lot of time in isolation. You have a lot of time available for meditation. So you have time for the most profound transformation that you could imagine. So what we did was we just built it at Chowchilla. That was where we started. We did another program in Mendocino. We're doing another one here. And from the ground up, we decided to change to change everything, to change the cellular structure of people. So we had farms, we even had bees. We had farms really showed how to work with food to change that, because another statistic is that something like 80% of people, if you change their diet inside of prisons, then what you find is violence decreases by 80% if you change the diet. So we started doing that, and then we built a program that's very similar to the experience that a monk or a nun would have for those people who wanted to, participate. And so we had some of the highest rates of what they consider success, which is decreased trauma, decreased depression, decreased anxiety, decreased violence inside of the program, because what was happening was people were getting free on the inside. And one of the things that we understood, there's two. One is when you look at recidivism, the cause of it, interestingly, it isn't class, it isn't ethnicity. There's a whole series of things that you would expect it to be. It is addiction to routine. And people just become so dependent on that particular routine that they're terrified when they don't have it. And so they go back to have it. So what we decided to do was give people a different routine, one that built their esteem, one that built their power, one that built their sense of self-possession, irrespective of what they walked out to, which is what Topeka's working with, helping them, so that you can walk out and have the resilience, the strength, the confidence when you hear no, 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 no. The experience of defeatism and despair and disappointment when you walk out, and you're at first there's the joy of walking out, and then there's the feeling of, what am I going to do? I'm an alien. And as human beings, we're social animals. The thing we most want is to feel a sense of belonging. When you get down to it, you want to feel like and in fact your nervous system goes into fight or flight when you feel like you won't belong, because that means that you're at risk of death as a social animal. And so to give people this sense of being able to be intimate with their environment, no matter what's happening, you have that quality within you. That's the purpose of the Art of Soul Making program. Now 80,000 people have gone through it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Really, yeah.
Michelle just came in real quick. That's who I gave a shout out to.
Oh,
She's like, what is going on?
hey.
I was talking about how you hired the sis on the spot.
So it really is about taking care of people's needs on like the most cellular level, in order rather than just as the incarcerated. It's like saying, okay, well, as you were saying, diet, meditation, opportunity. It's like giving like a roadmap.
That's it.
That we don't give people necessarily, or they don't. Or
I wanted it to be that those people feel fortunate that they ended up incarcerated, and that they have an opportunity that people on the outside don't even have.
In a way, some of us are imprisoned on the outside.
That's it. That's it. And that's what we have a documentary, and that's what several of the women say. I'm freer than I ever was on the outside, and that's you can carry that in your heart no matter what.
So true.
Because you can't control conditions.
That's right.
Unconditional Freedom Project.
Can you, either one or both of you, also talk about the Women Over Dinner, which I was privileged to attend, and its purpose?
Well, you should
such a
start.
great initiative.
Another one of our projects. So because to me, it's a woman's sense of power. It's ecological. Change has to be ecological. You have to hit every aspect. So I had this vision, and I had written this manifesto for women, and I gave it to a friend of mine, and she had started something called Death Over Dinner. They had 200,000 dinners. You ask questions, things that you don't think to ask in life, because her partner's father had passed, and there were certain questions they had never asked him. And so you ask these questions at dinner, and the idea was to build this network of women based on intimacy, and I'm Sicilian, and food. So that we have this kind of basic nourishment, and that's what we come together through. And so I don't know how many we've done now. We've done 300 dinners, and we just.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What time span?
Not,
About 3 years.
yeah.
Maybe 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah. And then I came in.
And then she came in, and this firecracker, they said, I think we should do one in prison.
Yes.
Right. He's like, hit it. This is how we are together all the time. So yeah, so I went to my first dinner and I was blown away again. And I was like, oh, definitely we have to do this in the prison. And, like the WAP group, Women of Power, made it happen. And we did our first one in Taconic in December, and it was incredible. It was 100 women. They were served 3-course meals, just like outside. They were able to get the red thread tied around it. It was so beautiful. So then we do a call. And as a matter of fact, I'm so excited. I said, it would be so cool if we got 100 dinners to happen the same day to stand in solidarity with the women over dinner. And my sister, Kara, I see you looking up there, Kara. They were like, let's do it. And so there were dinners. How many dinners was it? Like 111 maybe? Dinners that also happened on that same day that when we were in Taconic in solidarity. So from Ireland to Africa to Italy to everywhere. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't we try to do 100 dinners inside of the prison? And I thought I was overreaching, of course, like women. The group is like, let's do it. So we are planning dinners every month in prisons for the rest of the year. So shout out to the WAP team for making that happen.
Sign up for one of these events.
The website.
Yeah.
Through the
Womenoverdinner.org.
Instagram,
Mhm.
website,
That
everyone,
easy.
just
Yep.
Google Women Over
Over
Dinner.
Dinner.
It'll pop up right away.
Yep.
There's also an
Womenoverdinner.org.
Instagram.
Yep. And Karen's going to be hosting one soon.
I will be.
Yeah, we're putting it out there.
And we have,
Where's the
we
chef?
have packets
Right.
also. If you ever want to throw one of your own,
Yeah.
then you can put it on the website. We have people who've just thrown them around the world, and then they send their pictures or their videos, and it is so sweet to
Yeah.
watch. It's so beautiful to watch these women coming together over food. And there's been so many stories of mothers and daughters who had never known these things about each other. It's really powerful.
Yes, I shared my experience with my daughter. And, I told her a little bit about the questions and the subjects, and we're coming out. I'm like, I'm just gonna put it out there. You're gonna talk maybe, or maybe not, but how to, I'm not even sure because it's so, I don't know how to say it, but how to satisfy yourself
Right.
sexually. I guess it's called masturbation, but
Mhm.
we can call it that. Sexual masturbation. There's a term.
There's a
So we'll
term.
put that in the dictionary. But that wasn't the whole thing I took.
Self-pleasure.
Yeah, self-pleasure, some
A little more.
elegant. Yeah. Imagine you said it. No, but there was, I also, while I was there, I was saying, and I keep saying the same thing, so apologies for anyone that's heard this. I just was so impressed with the generosity of the women, Dion, at my table. And it's not Lisa. Alicia was close. Okay. Just that generosity of spirit and openness, and I was in awe of being there, and I was floating out when I left, and it was just energetic. You could feel the energy,
That's it.
the connection,
That's it.
meeting the next woman, and here, and we were like all connected.
It's like a certain valuable nutrient is restored
Mhm.
because your guard can go down, and then as soon as women's guard goes down, it just flows. Like you can't. It's I know. I've been to several of them now, and it's every single time. No, every time. That's the experience. Because I thought, I don't know. I'm not a big event person personally. I'd rather throw it than go to it. But I've been to these, and every time I'm deeply moved. And I think, okay, next time I won't be. And every time, because I don't think for me, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing a woman reveal herself, and you just that intimacy, that connection that you get to have. I'm honored every time it happens. So yeah, it's
well, thank you too for you starting it and for you joining on and just amplifying it and telling me about it. Now everyone here knows about it.
Yes.
It's really important. But if we come back to, again, one of the reasons, and not just because you're so amazing and everyone here is so amazing. You said this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. We're all in this together. Yeah. We are a community. We thrive when everyone thrives. Right. You can pretend that we can be in our little bubble or our throne somewhere and, well, I don't have to look down there. I don't have to get down. It all comes. We're going to all feel it at some point. So when we talk about recidivism again, and you have, you provide the safety net, the resources, you provide in the prisons, the women that confidence that you matter. What do we all do as community? What do we tell our friends? What do we tell our family? How do we get people to, just embrace it in a way that we're up for this? We're up for the challenge. We're gonna create, a lot more interesting and people that are contributing versus people that have to come out and meekly, apply, get rejected, social services. Oh, we don't like you. You're taking our money. How do we just, invest?
I think it starts with, the narrative, and that's what you said earlier, Karen, but by the grace of God, there go I. It can happen to anyone. And how would you like to be received from your community if it happened to you? There's a story that I share sometimes that is what really changed. One of the things that changed me along my journey, when I was being transported in the federal system from the county jail after sentencing to the federal system, I was on this plane. They called it Con Air.
Wow.
Yeah, Con Air. And it's like the movie, right? Yeah. And it was the most horrific experience that I had personally been through my entire incarceration, because I felt so dehumanized during that experience. You're handcuffed and shackled. You're transported in a van for hours without food. Can't go to the bathroom. Then when you get on this plane, you're on the plane and the women sit in the front, like as if you're in first class, and the men are in the back. But maybe it's 2 rows worth of women and then all men, all the way down the plane. And when you have to go to the restroom, you have to go all the way to the back of the plane. And you're still handcuffed and shackled. And so you're walking through the aisle. So just, visualize walking through the aisle, handcuffed and shackled. And there's men on each side of you. And they're groping you. And they're touching you. And the guard just was pushing me like I was doing something wrong. And I got to the bathroom, and then now I have to take down my pants. I'm in my street clothes because I hadn't yet been, into the institution. So, I had a little pair of tight pants on and trying to get those down. And they, it was just horrific. I was on my cycle and, they didn't have the proper things for me to change myself. It was terrible. So I get back to my seat, and this young lady, she's crying. And she's shaking, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, I've never been on a plane before. So we just held hands, and, I just tried to calm her down. But in that moment, I had said, wow, my flight before being on that flight, I had flown first class to Hawaii with my friends for our annual girls trip. And here I am, this next flight, next to a woman who's never been on a plane before. And even though our journeys have taken us two separate places, it landed us at the same place at the same time. And I think about that often in my work and what I do and how I treat people and why, because you never know where you end up, irrespective of where you come from. So what does the community do? The community has to connect. You have to do things outside of yourself. You know, you have to be more selfless. You have to open up spaces like FLOK, like you're doing, and talking to new audiences so people can hear these experiences. I mean, if you saw me walking down the street, you wouldn't think I would have been in prison for 3 years. I know you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't think you're going through the things that you're going through presently with the feds right now. You wouldn't think that by looking at her. Today, right? Like you would not think that. So remember that it could be you. And because you care about your sisters, it is you. So you hire people, you give them opportunities for housing. If you see somebody hungry and they ask for food, give them food. Who cares what they do with it? If they ask for money, the Bible says if somebody asks, you give, right? Don't have to give $10, you can give $1. But you don't judge what they do with the money once you give it to them. Give it to them, because it is. I came home to family, to friends, and the anxiety that I still had coming home was terrible. I would go into my house and just shut my door. I did every single day. My parents would be like, well, what's going on? And I realized I was simulating like I was going into a cell. I was going to close the door like I was going back into a cell because I had been conditioned for so long, and nobody wanted to come in because they didn't want to bother me, because they didn't know how I would respond. And here's a person who's had everything that you can think of. But I got conditioned in just 3 years. Think about people who've been in for 30, 40 years and how they're going to come home and what will they have? Give them an opportunity. Like we all deserve it.
You have a book. I believe it's a book, right?
No, I just have a journal.
A journal.
Right, so I created a journal for people. Well, there's two, actually, yes. So rewriting her story. Yes. So you said earlier about being in prison before you've even been, you know, people are in prison outside of prison. I think all of us who've experienced prison, you've been in prison before you went to prison. And so one of our programs is called The Faces of Women Imprisoned. And that is about women who've experienced all different areas of the legal system to share their stories and rewrite her story. So we published our first book called Rewriting Her Story. And you can, yes, it's on Amazon. And it's 5 authors, 5 directly affected women, all who've been through the program, and they're sharing a bit of their testimony. And so if you want to hear from sisters who've experienced similar things, and I'm sure you will hear yourself in these stories, please get the book. You know, the donations come to the organization so we can continue to do the work that we do. And then we also have a journal. I created a journal for folks because I wrote when I was inside. I wrote a lot. It was what helped me get through. And so I usually give them out to people inside because I'm like, right, you know? So we have some here also.
Amazing. I'll take a look at that. Nicole, do you have anything to add in terms of advice for us as people that are learning, and you know what we can do to help change the system to be more welcoming? Anything along those lines?
Good question. I said I was insubordinate, and I say that because you couldn't ever tell me what to do, and so I don't. So I try to not. I don't know. I mean, the sense is there's really one way to be happy. That's it, and that the only way I know to be happy is to have my attention outside of myself, you know, to actually in the most difficult, you know, I'm indicted. I go to court on Monday. It's a serious indictment. And, you know, and so all I know to do is offer. And because I know to do that, I'm free. And what am I free from? I'm free from that ever ruminating thought that's considering, am I going to get mine, or am I going to lose mine, or am I going to end up with something I don't want? You know, and judging, comparing, and ruining what's been missing, all of that goes away. There's one way, and that's when you see how to offer what's inside of your heart in the way that most suits you. And that's the other thing, that's how you can draw out your genius. That's how you find out what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
We don't find out, I don't think, until we really figure out how to do it in a way that's offering this expression. You can alone, you can go fast, but you can only go far with other people.
Mhm.
I think that alone you can create great things, but you can only truly step into your greatness when you're doing it for others.
Mhm.
And so it puts you on a different plane when you do it. And so for me, it's a matter of, just asking myself if I want to be happy, if I want to feel free. And then if I say yes, then I know the way to do that is to offer something. Then when I do that, it becomes very clear, it becomes very evident what my unique contribution on the planet is, because I think it's encoded in all of us. What each one of us is here to do is encoded inside of us. And then the way to activate it is to say yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I have one thing to add. So Monday, May 5th, is my 10 years of freedom.
Oh, wow.
Monday, May 5th is also the day that you're supposed to start trial. But I will say that 5 is a number of grace. So, we will speak out here to the universe that you're receiving all the grace, you and Rachel, and that you will not have to go through this trial. So I just want to put that out there while we're in this space with power and women. God's got you.
I know.
And I do too.
I know. Both, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
We were going to take some questions from the audience. If you have them, we can pass the mic around.
Or just
Raise
if
your
you'd like, you
hand.
can stand up.
So, I've been to several, I'm always inspired by both of you. Anytime there's something that I'm gonna show up.
Oh, thank you.
I do have a question going back to when you mentioned just the trauma, that cycle. So I have a space and I open the space up on Mondays to people of color for free to just kind of come in and work on their businesses. Some of them need masterminding, coaching, little hand holding on how to start their businesses. What advice? I'm not a therapist. I started out with 10 people. I'm now at 28. I can't handle it.
Oh, great.
So what? No. What? Yes, but it's a lot. I'm holding space for a lot of them. What advice do you have? Because the trauma does come up. There's a cycle. There's a repetitiveness. So, and I try to get therapists, and we can't find therapists. A lot of them want therapists, women of color. That's hard to find. Book and mental health therapists are like not sold out, but they're booked up. What advice would you have? I'm trying to get volunteers to help support these women while I try to figure out how to hold up space for them.
So the Boris Henson Foundation, Taraji P. Henson's foundation, they do a lot of work with therapists of color. And so a good friend of mine works with them. I can make an introduction and you can see what they can do to help. But opening the space is helping to heal the trauma.
Yes.
So just having that space open, you don't have to do more. Like, you've done your part. And so back to community, right? You're saying this and you're speaking this out. And I'm sure there's someone in this room that knows someone, or there could be one of the people that are coming in that may be seeking services that may have another skill that can also help, right? So don't think you have to carry the entire burden of your own. Like, we each can do something. You've done your part. So you've opened it up. You continue to pray. God's going to send you the people and the resources. But I will make that connection for you. Oh.
I have a microphone. I can project. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm an instructor here. And we talk a lot about wellness and nutrition. How can I help with fitness with people who have been recently released or are currently imprisoned? How can I help them so that they can have the tools to be a better person, to be their best self using fitness and yoga especially?
Well, I think through both of our programs, we work with women who have been impacted by the system. And so if you have some information that you specifically want us to share, we can share it throughout our networks. We can put it in our newsletters, and then people can just reach directly out. I think that's the best way.
I can tell you that yoga is a portion of our Prisons to Monasteries program, and that has been one of the most successful portions of the program. How much pain is stored in bodies of women who are incarcerated is incredible. And these women will just sob through much of their class, just having the opportunity to release in that way. Yes.
Don't have to do anything.
Hi, Samantha. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm a friend of Olga's, who's not here. I know you know her well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty open about this. So I'm in a 12-step program, which at one time I was actually going into prisons and speaking. And I'm here actually because of Olga, but I also really want to get emotional. I might get emotional.
It's okay.
Don't hold it in.
It's a safe space. And don't apologize.
I just felt like very disconnected from my passion lately. I'm in the fashion business. I worked for Steve Madden for 10 years. He went to prison. And I just feel very connected to wanting to help women in prison. I signed up to help people dress for success because I know they help people. And they were like, oh, you can come this, you can do that. It just never ended up panning out. But I just feel like I'm not going to get into my whole life story here. But as you said, you can't tell walking down the street what someone's been through. But I'm a very open person, and I've been through hell and back, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room have. I didn't go to prison, but I easily could have. I went to other places. And I just really want to, and I'm sure I can talk to you after about this, and I know you said the dinners, and I'd like to attend those.
Yeah.
But I really want to be able to, I would love to go to prisons or meet.
You sure?
No, I do.
No, I know, I'm just joking.
I want to be able to speak to women or work with them, even if they're coming out. I don't know where I'd be able to go. But women coming out of prison or getting out of prison, just how I could be able to be more involved with something like that.
Well, we definitely, one, you do not look like what you've been through. So amen to that. We definitely will connect with you, both Nicole and I. We can get you in a prison anytime you want to go. Also, I think, I mean, fashion is so important. I mean, clearly you see us up here, right? No, but really, like, 100%. And, our women, next behind you is Everett, our housing specialist. In the front of you is Ayana, our case manager for our rapid housing. And those sisters also, like, they're actively fleeing domestic violence outside of incarceration. People need to feel good about themselves. We also do programming in prison. And so some of them, maybe you can do a class just on Zoom, through one of the programs, or we just started going into, next week, we start going into a TGK, a prison in Miami. And they allow women to, like, Rochelle, I'm gonna call you for this, but they let people come in and get their hair done. You can bring hair for them to do their weaves and braids, and in Florida. So there's so many things. So I will definitely connect with you. And I see you have your mic. You have something to connect to?
We have an Art of Addiction program as well.
Yes.
And it's an incredible program. You might be interested in doing that with. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, so what are your names over there?
You came late?
Arian. Beautiful, nice to meet you. And then
I'm Karen,
Karen.
and we know Topeka.
Nicole.
You do, and Nicole.
Topeka.
Topeka, oh, beautiful. And then
Thank you.
Nicole.
Beautiful, nice to meet you guys. My name is Zadia. So,
What's your name? You said so fast.
Zadia.
Zadia.
Zadia, okay.
So I'm actually on a mission to get saved by Jesus, and I'm still in the process of getting saved. To be honest, my story is incredible, and it might be hard for people to understand because they'll be like, what, that's actually happening to you? But I actually been experiencing a tough time of getting deliverance from other people, so I've been doing a self-deliverance on myself. And I know they ended up having an event on Eventbrite where they're doing a deliverance. So I was like, thank God. But anyways, I noticed when I was going through the tough difficulties that there have been like, it seemed like, unclean spirits, some people would come and like, sorry, the mic went off. Some people would say that demons might potentially be involved, but I've noticed that people have been acting off, like my relationships with downhill, and like it seemed like it could potentially be mind control. So honestly, I was wondering because she was talking about prison and everything, and I was like, what if it was a case that unclean spirits were involved with people going in prison and them not getting help, like their actions being because of unclean spirits, which happen to be what people call demons. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that, ladies.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So how did you hear about this event?
Okay, so, thank you. So I heard about this event because apparently, how did I hear about it? Eventbrite, I believe. I heard about it on Eventbrite, and it said they were doing a free dinner for women to talk about things involving entrepreneurship and stuff. So I went to the free dinner, and then they told me about they were doing more in Harlem, free dinners for people in need as well, because since I've been having a tough time, I've been having to look for I ended up getting kicked out from my family's house, like from everybody's house, so it seemed like demonic entities were involved, because it just didn't make sense how it was happening, like everything went downhill for no reason. And before I used to have a job, I used to have a little bit of everything, and I knew how it happened, how I got what I would call a possession. It happened at this festival that I was at, and I just had a hard time getting rid of it, so that's my case.
Okay. Well, so free food. You went to free food, it sounds like, and then you found the event through there. So thank you for being here. I mean, everything for me, I don't know when you came, when you walked in, but Karen asked me about my relationship with God. And everything for me starts with prayer. And so I heard you say that you're trying to, start and embarking on your journey with Jesus. And so that's great, right? And so it starts with prayer. So anything, whether it's spiritual that you feel, whether it's something that might be in the physical that you feel, if there are things that are happening to you that you think, you don't know where it's coming from and why it's happening, you have to pray. And, afterwards, I would be happy to give you some scriptures that you can read in order to help you with that. And then, you find a church home, find other people who are believers that can help. But I would say, in this life that we live, there are all types of things, depending on what you believe. There are spirits, that is a real thing for some, right? And I think that you just need to focus on what you want to do and how you want to get there. And if God is what it sounds like you're trying to go, that's a beautiful thing. So prayer changes things. I'll say that. You being here is a good step for that. It seems like you came alone, which is a beautiful thing, right? So it is that you're searching for a new community. So, all are welcome. So I just wanted to say that to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate you. God bless.
And you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for your beautiful stories. I love your energy here on stage. And so I was wondering if there was a moment in your journeys that you felt a switch to reclaim your stories, because it feels like I think there's a lot of shame or people judgments from these experiences, but it's inspiring how these are the very experiences that are able to empower you as a leader to bring other people to unlock the freedom and liberation within themselves. So I'm wondering how you were able to find the courage to be vulnerable with those experiences and turn those maybe traditionally experiences that can evoke shame into the exact power that makes you amazing.
It's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Just a quick version of my story is, I think it was almost 7 years ago, I was what's called canceled. There was an article written about me. It destroyed me. And I went from 2,500 people in my phone book to 40 people overnight. I was a pariah. At the time I had an agent. There were various things that were happening. nobody would speak to me except for my friends, my true friends, many of whom I discovered were my true friends, and many of whom I thought were my true friends weren't. You know, there was a, you know, one of my best friends who said she'd name her child after me fled. Like that's what that time looked like. It looked like a bomb. It looked like destruction. I had no idea what was going on at that time. And then 2 weeks later, I heard there was an FBI investigation. And so you know, they say all practice is for the phase transition. That was the phase transition. And I had done a lot of practice, and the only thing I could rely on was muscle memory and faith. That was really what and I remember having this flash: don't get bitter. No matter what, don't get bitter. And then there's this expression, this woman who does work in prisons also studied with shaman. And the shaman had said to her, people are brought down by the same forces, by the same dark forces, but the shaman, or the healed person, the wounded healer, is the one who makes it out. And I remember thinking, be that, Nicole. This is your time being brought down. Make sure that your resurrection is clear. And I can tell you, the thing that saved my life was offering. It was really digging into these programs, writing books, etc. But the feeling of shame, I was really clear. You know, I'll tell you, somebody else also said, I wish you much disillusionment, meaning to break free of illusion. And so, you know, I did not know, I know, like, I've worked in prison, so I know how things go, but I did not know how things go. You really see a different side of the world when you're sitting indicted. When you're sitting indicted, the world looks different. And I just was very clear that, okay, we have to do better marketing on being indicted. I was because those strange looks that I was getting from people did not apply to this woman. I was 100% clear. Oh, I don't think you're talking to the right person, because that expression on your face does not apply here. That's also Sicilian. So I mean, we're just like, I don't know what's going on with you, but it's nothing on me. And so I got that much more fierce that this whole arena, you know, I've worked in the arena of sexuality for 30 years. And when I first got it, it was a slum. It was just a horrible realm to be working in. And I decided that I was going to make it a clean, well-lighted place to explore power, because everything is about sex, except for sex. Sex is about power. And women didn't have access to sex. You know, we like would do it to offer or something, but we didn't have access to it as a force of power. So I was very clear with that. So I thought, okay, now I have being indicted as my new slum, that we are going to have it be that that we're rehumanized, that this person, because that's the part.
So is it also, I mean, were you being judged, you know, not by the innocent until proven guilty?
Oh, you're not. There's no. There's no such thing as innocence. Once, I mean, even
you have, it falls on you to prove
I hadn't
innocence.
even been indicted, and I was guilty. I mean, it's you're there. It is. It really is. It's instantaneous being a pariah, and as I said, we're social animals. So I was exiled from belonging. And so then what do you do?
You found your way back.
Yeah, that's what you do. Then you sit here. You know, and I have to say, I am very fortunate. I have beautiful friends, really strong practice, and I've been fortunate enough to have resources, and that's, you know, I do want to say that is privilege. My friends took care of me, and you know, if the government took all my money, I don't have any money, I don't have anything like that. My friends took care of me. They feed me, everything. That is a rare gift, but I think part of that is the determination. No, we're going to change the system. This will my vow, you know, I take vows in various places. My vow is this will never happen to anybody again the way it happened to me. And I think you asked the question, do you think this was fated in some way? I don't know if it was fated, but I know that they did it to the wrong person.
Good for you.
Yeah. And so back to when we were talking about redemption, and, you know, blocking the recidivism, putting it in the ground, you're not even, you haven't
Gone through
you
trial.
haven't gone
Right.
through trial,
Yeah.
and you're already being, seen differently.
Yeah.
Where's the redemption? And even, I'm sorry, but even if to say you did something, can you not redeem yourself? That second chance, that opportunity to come back. We all make mistakes.
Well, and if you think about it, the line is so, that bifurcates the us and then them, the indicted and the not indicted, or the incarcerated and the non incarcerated. It's imaginary. That's not. There is no actual line. There is no actual. The crimes that most of the women are in prison for. More often than not, it has to do with our massive agreeability and compliance and wanting love more often than not from a man or a woman that we ended up bowing to in some way. So all of these things are conditions. We all share these conditions. And so it's not a matter of this line, it's a matter of the spectrum. And how far have you gone on the spectrum? And some people are blessed, they didn't go this far on the spectrum, or they didn't have this result, but the experience of being seen that way has been extremely, it's been profound, because then I can tell you that now that I've been seen that way and I've been cracked and I've had that experience, human kindness matters to me in a way I never knew it could. Really, like there are women who've come to Women Over Dinner who came to hearings that I've had, that just came to support. And those little moments that now I'm touched, it can reach directly into my heart, into my soul, in a way that it couldn't prior. And it wasn't like I was a jerk. It was just you really appreciate it in a new way.
Thank you. I wanted to speak on your question too. Great question. The irony, I wasn't even ashamed about my experience with incarceration at all. I remember my niece, she was like, "Oh, Pika, why didn't tell me you was going to jail?" And I was like, well, I wasn't sure what was happening. I had been, arrested and held without bail. So, I thought I was going to come home. This is what. And my mother was like, well, because she just was really ashamed. I was like, no, I wasn't. She was like, yes, you was. I said, no, I wasn't. And I wasn't. But I realized, though, that what really landed me to my incarceration was my guilt. It wasn't shame. So I was very fortunate. I was raised a 2-parent home, very fortunate, very privileged, had everything. And I was always searching for a sense of connectedness, of belonging with my community, Black women, because I was raised around all white people, which were all my friends. But when I got to college, I went to an HBCU and I wanted to be connected. And I still was looked at as different. And so what I realized, when I went through incarceration and I came home and I started my work, the same thing started coming up. It wasn't me feeling ashamed or anything, because now I understood that the privilege that my parents had afforded me was because they didn't want me to experience the poverty that they did. But when I came home and working in this space, because of the trauma, there were so many people that were projecting their own trauma on me, and I began to feel guilty again, right? Because I sat at a different level of privilege, even above my sisters who had been to prison, right? Even in prison, I was privileged. I got visits every week. I got money on my books. I had the best job, if there was a best job. I had all the things, I got my hair done, my makeup done, I had visits, got manis and panties, all the things. So, even in that situation. So I realized, though, as I came home and started building my organization and building my life, the same thing started coming up again. But because of me having those moments of stillness and prayer and understanding, that I was like, wait, God gave me this privilege so that I could be able to navigate in all different types of systems and be all around different types of people or relate to different types of people. And I can't let someone else's burdens be mine,
That's right.
right? And so I share that as a thought of where that guilt and shame, sometimes we take on other people's shit. It's not our own. And I've learned, I often say, like, look, your trauma is not my heavy. And so we're taught to give people so much grace because of the trauma they're going. I'm like, look, I'm working on my trauma each and every day. So you need to work on yours, sis. You know, like, now I will give you grace, obviously, because I ask for grace every day. But I don't have to take on your trauma as my own. And so, you know, as you are growing, because I'm just assuming that you're probably many years younger than me. Yeah, girl, y'all know you are. That I feel that, you know, it's important that, you know, you pick up what's yours and you heal what's yours, but you put down what's not and you allow it to be someone else's. And so when guilt and shame comes in.
Wait, say that again. That was good.
You like that?
You pick up what's yours.
So you pick up what's yours and you put down what's not, and you leave that alone, right? Because so often, you know, we're picking up everybody else's stuff and it becomes too heavy for us.
Especially women.
That's all we do. You know, we do that. We clean up every single day, you know,
Don't worry, we got it.
Right. And it's other people's stuff. We can't do that, you know, and as you grow and you learn and you know, you become more wise with age and life experience, you will understand that it is about just holding on to yours. Healing is a journey. It is not a destination. Each and every day, we are healing from something that transpired at some point in our lives. I hit my toe today. I was healing from that, but also, right? Heavy, but also,
I'm putting that down.
you know, but also I'm healing still from that 3.5 years of incarceration, you know, that irrespective, that was new PTSD that I picked up along the way, right? And now, you know, you work through that. So that was an incredible question. And it just brought up so many things for me, but thank you.
Thank you. I want to say about your privilege being what God gave you to be with essentially me.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly right.
I also like the, you know, that every day is a new day, right?
Yes.
Every day you can reinvent yourself.
That's
you can
right.
become someone new. You
That's
have
right.
that choice. So you two are proving it all to us.
Dynamic duo.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I have one question. So in between your two programs, right? I mean, you're doing a beautiful job. Like I was introduced to your program through Miss Mason, right? And when she talks about you, she puts you on a pedestal, right?
Oh.
But it's okay, right? It's okay because I see why.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, what I'm asking you, so is there anything that you, between the two of you, that you do to reduce the recidivism rate for the people that actually participate in your program? Right? So is there another, like, especially when you say, like, you do the dinners, right? And you go to jails and you do the dinners, but so when they're coming, when they're leaving from, you know, when they're transitioning coming home, right? Are you still in contact with them?
Yes.
Right? Are you
Yes.
you know, push them into schools, college?
All the things. So we, our program is national, for both of our programs are national program.
Yeah, I've been reading up on your program.
Okay, great. So I don't know where you're coming with the questioning, bruh, but. So yeah, so if you're reading on it, you already know. Right, that's all. It's fine. How you doing, bruh? How you doing?
I love you. I appreciate you.
That's all. It's fine. It's cool. No, but that's, I mean, yes, we do. I mean, we provide housing. We provide food. We help with healthcare. We do banking. We connect people with digital skills. We provide opportunities for employment. We connect people to community members. We do it all, right? And I often say that we work what I learned, what we do. I was led by my spirit in doing the work, but I learned that we were helping to stop the social deterrence of health, right? And I didn't know that's what we were doing. I just did what I felt needed to happen. I created what I saw was needed. Every sister I talked to, when they said there was an issue, I created the solution. And that's something else we could do, right? Like, this is a huge issue. We all can bite it at a different angle, right? So like, even you're asking that question. right? So what are you all doing to stop the recidivism? We are opening up opportunities, the art of soul making, the art of addiction, the free food, the unconditional freedom, the women over dinners. And building community is so important. Being around people who are like-minded, who care, who want to see you win is something that you need, irrespective of where you're coming from. Why women over dinner is so powerful, right? And so I think for you, now I want to pose a question. What are you doing for your community?
So I started a nonprofit called Upstream Consulting, right?
Okay.
So what I do is I really try to reach out to the people in my community and teach them how to buy houses.
Okay.
Right? Teach them how to do first-time homeowners programs, right? Also, too, a lot of the guys in my neighborhood have legal issues. So when they bring me their paperwork, I read over the paperwork and I write letters for them before they go to court, or if they have an appeal, or whatever they need to do.
Okay.
Right? So I mean, I don't charge them for it. You know, if they want to pay me, fine, right? But I really don't. I mean, some of them will pay me, right? I mean, you know.
I mean, it's all right. Look, you don't have to tell me either way. You know? It's no judgment zone.
So like you said before, like it's the healing, right? That's a part of my healing,
Yeah.
right? Because I too served time, right? I was fortunate enough to go through the Doe Fund, where I had a community, right? I had a community of people that helped me get to where I am right now.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the most important part about coming home.
That's right.
The part about coming home is that you have to have a community of people who love you unconditionally. Right?
That's right.
And you have to learn how to separate yourself from the people who don't have your best interests in mind.
That's right.
Right? And it took me a little while to learn that.
Takes time.
Yeah, it took me a little while to learn that, but I had a great mentor at the Doe Fund, right? And he really put his foot in my, So, and, you know,
He might need to put his foot on your neck again. But, no, but congratulations. That's awesome.
So the part of that for me is just giving back, right?
Yep.
Giving what was so freely given to me.
Yep.
Right? I don't ask people for, like, a lot of guys come to me and talk to me about their legal problems. They tell me what it is, and I tell them, you might want to go this route, right? You might want to try this, right? You know, if you're going to go to court, you know, if you're going to have a public pretender, right? Make sure you know what you're actually being charged, right? Like, you know,
You're right.
And if you're locked up, right? I tell you, right? Even I'm going through with my nephew now, who's still going through this way, right? I had to tell him, like, you have to go to the law library, right?
Yeah.
You actually have to read to see, figure out.
100%.
Yeah, because just because you're locked up don't mean you're dummy,
Yeah.
right? But you have time now. You know, you're not using anything. You're not under the influence of anything. Figure out how to get yourself out of jail.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then a lot of the guys that I know in my community, you know, they've all been 15, 20 years jail, you know, and they still are institutionalized, right? Even though they're on the street, they're still institutionalized, right? So a part of that conversation with them is me, hey, listen, maybe you should try this. Or, you know, I got a program, I know a guy who has a program, you can go there, I'll call him and refer you to him, right? So that's a part of what I'm trying to do in my community. But, you know, I'm inspired by your program, you know, and I think that you ladies are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Continue the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we got there. Thank you. Thank you.
So I think we're going to, I'm going to have Arian close it out unless you two ladies have anything else you'd like to share.
No, just thank you,
I just
Karen.
want to tell you how,
Thank you.
you know, we talked a little bit earlier about following your journey, where your journey is supposed to lead you, right? My 65th year. I
What?
opened up
Yeah,
FLOK.
what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm here with these incredibly, everyone here, you know, but the two of you, and I get to share space, and I get to be here with you, and I get to spend more time with you, and I'm going to spend time with you.
You're gonna read your book tonight.
But I want to thank you. You both exemplify what we need in the world.
Thank
We need more of it, compassion, love, and, you know, badass women. So
That's
thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for, you know, offering the space up for us to use our
It's a
voice.
beautiful space.
It's a gorgeous space. And thank you for trusting me with my dear friend.
Of course.
I think this was such a rich conversation, you know, but the conversations are only as good as their moderators.
That's
So,
right. That is very
thank you
true.
so much. It was such a great conversation. You were such a great lead, and you're such a beautiful person. So I love you. I appreciate you. Yes.
All right.
So I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I hope that we can all leave with some sort of question in our mind or keep the conversation going, figure out how we can make these small impacts. And I am in awe of both of you. You are a dynamic duo. You guys should go on tour together.
We will, as soon as we get out of this indictment. We're going on
And I
tour.
want to thank Karen for creating the space.
Yes.
And
Arian, thank
you.
Now we get time to mix and mingle a little bit.
don't
Yes,
forget to donate.
yes.
Do
And
not
please,
forget to donate.
yeah, if you'd like to, we have these fabulous books back here. We still have the QR code on your chair, so don't feel pressure to rush out of here.
No pressure.
And you might want to ask a question to
And sign up
Nicole
for
and
Women Over
Topeka.
Dinner.
Yes, sign up for Women
Yes.
Over Dinner. The next one is May 22nd.